Hello! From Wonder Media Network, I'm Jenny Kaplan, and this is Womanica. For the past 6 years, we've been telling the stories of women you may or may not know about, but definitely should. This month, we're bringing back our favorite Womanica episodes from across the back catalog. These are women across centuries and around the world who made their mark. With that, here's one of our favorite episodes. Hello! From Wonder Media Network, I'm Jenny Kaplan, and this is Womanica. This month we're talking about word weavers, people who coined terms, popularized words, and even created entirely new languages. These activists, writers, artists, and scholars used language to shape ideas and give voice to experiences that once had no name. Triggered by the haunting of her murdered child, Sethe begins to confront all the trauma she repressed after escaping enslavement. This is the premise of Beloved, a novel that led its author to become the first African-American woman to win the Nobel Prize in Literature. One of the most significant contributions of Beloved is the creation of the word rememory, which describes the act of recalling and confronting repressed history. The novel forces readers to reckon with the ghosts of slavery, not as a past event, but as a living, breathing presence in the present. Today's Womanican wrote Beloved, as well as many other prolific books. Please welcome Toni Morrison. Toni Morrison was born on February 18, 1931, in Lorain, Ohio, a town that provided a strong sense of community, while also exposing Toni and her family to the truths of racial segregation and economic struggles. From an early age, Toni was a voracious reader, and storytelling was an ingrained practice in her family. She was exposed to a range of narratives, from oral histories to folklore, which elucidated the hard truths of Black survival. In an interview later in life, Toni said, "As a child, I had to retell those stories to other adults. The stories were pretty much horror stories about life as an African American. They were powerful and highly metaphorical, but that's really what was at the bottom of it." She carried those stories with her, first to Howard University, where she studied English, and later to Cornell, where she earned a Master of Arts in English. After graduating from Cornell in 1955, Toni taught English at Texas Southern University before eventually returning to Howard as a professor. One of her students was the Black Power movement leader Stokely Carmichael. She also met her husband, Harold Morrison, while at Howard. They would go on to have 2 children together. In the 1960s, Toni moved to New York and took a position as an editor at Random House. There, she played a pivotal role in publishing the works of important figures such as Angela Davis, Huey P. Newton, and Muhammad Ali. It wasn't until she was 39 years old that her own literary voice began to take shape with the publication of her first novel.
The very first book I wrote, called The Bluest Eye.
The Bluest Eye.
Was when I was not really thinking about publishing or reviewers or other readers. It was a book I wanted to read, and I couldn't find it anywhere.
The novel is set in Toni's hometown of Lorain, Ohio in the 1940s. It explores the devastating effects of racism and internalized beauty standards on a young Black girl named Pecola Breedlove. Despite receiving mixed reviews at the time, The Bluest Eye was a bold and uncompromising debut that set the stage for Toni's groundbreaking career. Her second book, Sula, earned Toni a nomination for the National Book Award, and her third book, Song of Solomon, a novel about self-discovery and the quest for personal freedom, won the National Book Critics Circle Award. Toni had solidified her place in the literary canon, yet it was her fourth novel, Beloved, published in 1987, that would secure her place among the greatest writers of the 20th century. Beloved is a harrowing story inspired by the real-life account of Margaret Garner, an enslaved woman who, when faced with capture, made the agonizing decision to kill her own child, rather than see her return to slavery. In Beloved, Toni weaves history and the supernatural, exploring the ways in which the past is never really past. And it's in this novel that Toni introduces rememory. Rememory is not just remembering. It's the idea that memories exist outside of us, that they live in the walls of a house, in the trees by the road, in the spaces where pain and joy once were. In Beloved, Sethe, the protagonist, is caught off guard by flashing memories she had locked away and forgotten. An example of this happens when Setha's senses are suddenly flooded with the smell of her mother's burning flesh and hair. In this scene, Toni writes, "Setha gathered hair from the comb and leaning back tossed it into the fire. It exploded into stars and the smell infuriated them. 'Oh my Jesus,' she said, and stood up so suddenly the comb she had parked in Denver's hair fell to the floor. She had to do something with her hands because she was remembering something she had forgotten she knew." In Beloved, rememory is alive. It moves through generations. It refuses to be buried. And in Toni's work, it serves as both a gift and a burden, a way to honor the past, and also a force that refuses to let trauma stay forgotten. When Beloved was published, it didn't immediately receive the recognition it deserved. In January of 1988, 48 Black writers signed a public letter in the New York Times condemning Toni's lack of national recognition by the National Book Award and the Pulitzer Prize. Later that year, Toni was awarded the Pulitzer Prize in Fiction. And in 1993, she became the first African-American woman to receive a Nobel Prize in Literature.
I think I write well. And I think I have a distinctive voice. But that's what makes writing this very difficult, very risky, very powerful enterprise.
Beloved was made into a feature film in 1998, starring Oprah Winfrey and Danny Glover. After Beloved, Toni continued exploring themes of race, identity, trauma, and the complexities of African-American life in other works. These titles included the 1992 Jazz,
The minute they arrive at the train station or get off the ferry and glimpse the wide streets and the wasteful lamps lighting them, they know they're born for it.
the 2003 Love, and her last novel, the 2015 God Help the Child. In 2012, Toni was presented with the Presidential Medal of Freedom by President Barack Obama. Toni's legacy as a novelist, editor, and cultural historian has left an indelible mark on American literature. Throughout her career, Toni wrote 11 novels, children's books, and essay collections, including her final released book in 2019, The Source of Self-Regard, Selected Essays, Speeches, and Meditations. Toni passed away at the age of 88 on August 5th, 2019 in New York City.
I know how to write forever. I don't think I could have happily stayed here if I did not have a way of thinking about it, past, present, future, which is what writing is for me. It's sometimes wild, the process by which I arrive at something, but nevertheless, it's mine, it's free, and it's a way of thinking. It's pure knowledge. You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to this best of episode of Womanica. For more information, find us on Facebook and Instagram at Womanica Podcast. Special thanks to Liz Kaplan, my favorite sister and co-creator. Join us tomorrow for another one of our favorite episodes. Talk to you then.